Numsa went to the South African Gauteng High Court on the 6th of November 2014 to request the courts of law to rescue Numsa from kangaroo court that was to be convened as a special Central Executive Committee of Cosatu. Some media reports and President of Cosatu went public to falsely claim that the court ruled against Numsa's application. If truth be told, the attorneys of Numsa and Cosatu presented the judge with the following agreement: that Numsa application be postponed and the judge do not make a ruling on agency, that Cosatu letter of the 11th February 2014 making reference to charges that Numsa must answer to should not be so wide as to say but not limited to. Numsa should only address 5 charges as per Cosatu letter of the 11th of February. The cost to this effect were reserved. For Numsa, this was enough of a victory because for close to a year, Numsa has been asking the Cosatu National Office bearers to provide the real and actual reason why Numsa would be suspended or expelled. Cosatu failed up to the 6th of November 2014 to show Numsa the courtesy and decency of a reply. It took a high court to limit the charges made by Cosatu against Numsa to 5 issues. Numsa's submission to Cosatu. Numsa had been asked to explain to the special CC why it should not be expelled, which we did very comprehensively, providing a detailed, passionate analysis of our political and organizational analysis in relation to working class struggles. See our page 48 page submission with a more detailed version of 105 pages. We have circulated that for you to be able to see. We found that this federation, it is a federation that is governed by a constitution that provides for a minimum number of affiliates democratically requesting a constitutional meeting, especially the convening of a special Congress if the need arises. Our request for a special national Congress, given the unattainable situation the Federation finds itself in, is in line with the constitutional provision of Cosatu. We are in an untenable situation in relation to how the policies of the ruling party, the African National Congress, negatively affect the working class, and how the leadership of affiliates of the Federation respond to these anti-working class policies. The Numsa demands at the CSC are all located within Cosatu Constitution, but the leadership of the Federation has continued to violate its own constitution. One of the most important reasons for the tension around all the constitutional violation is a political division between those who support the interests of the working class, as our constitution requires us to do, and those who are prepared to sacrifice those interests for an alliance with the ANC and the SABC. The hearing against Numsa on the 7th of November 2014 in the special CC was not a fair hearing, as the decision to expel Numsa had already been decided by some affiliate leaders using many different platforms over the past years. In fact, even members of the ANC task team who had intervened in the Cosatu CSC process of dealing with Numsa themselves demonstrated their bias against Numsa and its Congress resolutions. Numsa's biggest crime has been to democratically, in its own Congress, argue for political independence of the Federation, given the worsening material condition of the working class as a result of neoliberal ANC policies. We have noted with grave concern how our Congress resolution have been misinterpreted and distorted. Numsa has always intended to procedurally argue for its Congress resolutions to be democratically debated by workers at a Cosatu Special National Congress. All attempts to stop the Special National Congress are linked to a fear of the outcomes of democratic debate by workers about their political and material future. Numsa want to state, for a record, some key areas of struggle with the ANC, SACP, and NOBs of some affiliates and Cosatu NOBs. Numsa is concerned that key policies of the ANC, the NDP, which is a cut and dry and paste of DA policy, and GEAR, have replaced the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter gave the ANC its liberation character. It is a militant popular program which challenged property relations in South Africa. The NDP is a neo-liberal program which entrenches existing property relations and attacks the working class and the poor in the interests of mining and finance capital. The ANC leadership has abandoned democracy. There's a serious threat to Cosatu's militants and independence. Cosatu has become consumed by internal battles between two forces: those who continue to support the ANC and SACP with their neoliberal agenda, and those who, despite their understanding of the ANC as a multi-class organization, consciously and consistently fight for an independent, militant federation which stands for the interests of the working class before any other class. Both at Marikana and in the farm workers' strike in the Western Cape, the armed forces of the state intervene in support of the owners of capital against striking workers. In both instances, the result was the murder of workers whose only crime was to refuse to sell their labor for less than a living wage. The inconsistency of how affiliates are treated demonstrate a well-orchestrated agenda against Numsa. Other affiliates have rejected the alliance and have not been threatened with similar sanctions. These are three known examples of this, which include us as Numsa. Numsa itself in 1993 resolved to canvass Cosatu and its affiliates to support our position that we break with the alliance and to form a workers' party. Cosatu affiliates democratically engaged with this debate in the Federation National Congress, and it's common cause that Numsa lost the debate in Cosatu. Yet no strong armed tactics were ever applied to deal with Numsa's democratically arrived at decision. SASPO applied to become an affiliate of Cosatu and is now an affiliate. Its constitution specifies that it shall not belong to or support any political party. It does not contribute to Cosatu political fund. The leadership of Cosatu at that time were prioritizing unity of the working class. We can't say the same of the current leadership. Yet again, SASPO had not been dragged into kangaroo court. On the 9th of March in 2011, SAMU issued a public statement which directly confronted the status of the federation in the tripartite alliance. It listed the failures of the ANC. It then recorded that the union resolved, in the spirit of SAMU's commitment to support the ANC in the forthcoming elections, we find it impossible to convince our members and community to do this until the issues mentioned above are resolved. We thus call upon the ANC leadership to intervene urgently to address our concern. Other affiliates violate federation policy without consequences. Some examples of this include NUM has on several occasions disagreed with Cosatu's position on nationalization. Bob Crew recently has spoken against Cosatu campaign on e-tolls. There has been no call made for expulsion. Numsa is in good standing, and there has been no threat of expulsion of the many other affiliates who have not been in good standing in the past. We have paid up both our subscriptions and Cosatu SACP political levy. It is in fact Satao and Bob Crew, at the time when this debate was hot, who have outstanding levies to pay over the federation. However, Numsa is being asked to continue paying over a levy to the SACP, which continues to threaten to liquidate the union and has publicly declared that it will intervene in the federation to isolate what it called lingering irritation. Of the different issues that Numsa must account for to the Cosatu CC, the one that appears to be driving the call for our expulsion is the decision to expand our scope of organizing. We have provided a comprehensive presentation that demonstrated that how value chain organizing strategy exists is being used by a number of affiliate and new unions. That other affiliate organizes across sectors and compete with one another, and there is no sanction from the federation. Almost all constitutions of affiliates overlap in scope, and to date the Federation has not addressed this. There are many overlaps in scope that have led to conflict among affiliates. A detailed list showing that the vast majority of affiliates have amended their scope to infringe on others. We want to reiterate for the record that workers are approaching us and asking us to organize them. We are not poaching. We provided evidence of this to the CEC. Also for the record, we want to repeat our position about unconstitutional and divisive conduct of Cosatu leadership and some unmandated leaders in the CEC. The president of Cosatu has violated the constitution when he refused to convene the Special National Congress, since FAO made the first call in April 2013 and 8 other affiliates followed the call, thereby meeting the constitutional threshold. Cosatu CEC deciding not to convene the special CEC when it had no powers to do so. Suspended the Cosatu General Secretary, who had to be reinstated through the South African High Court. The continued presence of Zingi Swalosi in all constitutional meetings in her capacity as the second deputy president, despite the fact that she has ceased to be a member of an affiliate. So we do have a member of the public who really sit in the Cosatu CEC in the form of Zingi Swalosi, acted in bad faith in the process of seeking to, the whole CEC and the NOBs of Cosatu acted in bad faith in the process of seeking to expel Numsa, failed in their duties, the leadership of Cosatu, in unifying working class. It is becoming common practice that worker control, open debate and criticism, and the right to differ in the Federation are suppressed. We told the Cosatu Special CEC on Friday night that they are more loyal to the alliance of the ANC and the SABC than they are to the working class as demanded by Cosatu Constitution. We told Cosatu CEC on Friday night that they want to expel us because we consistently reminded them how they are failing to protect the interests of the working class, which includes both employed and unemployed. What are we going to do about our expulsion? As a worker control organization, we're going to convene a Numsa constitutional meetings and mass meetings to develop a program of how we move forward and how we continue to raise our voices on working class struggle. The fight is not over. The Numsa leadership call on all Numsa members across the length and breadth of the country to remain united. We further call on all workers across all affiliates of Cosatu to remain united and to reject illegal expulsion of Numsa by a factional group of leaders led by Cosatu president. Today it is sad to see leaders who are hell-bent on violating the Cosatu constitution at every turn to serve their selfish political interest. Today we see leaders who can knowingly destroy the Federation of Bahai and Gomomo, a federation built on sacrifices, sweat and blood of so many workers who have come before us. Numsa leadership remain resolute that we shall continue serving in Cosatu structures in different capacities as we will challenge the boardroom dismantling of our federation. We urge our local and provincial leadership to attend all Cosatu meetings in their numbers, as we will not be pushed out by a now hidden and now open agenda to split the federation. We remind our local and provincial leadership that there are many Cosatu affiliates who are also prepared to fight to reclaim and unite the federation. We know there is a special project of individuals who are ex-Numsa, ex-Cosatu leaders and from different affiliates, many of whom have been rewarded with big position in parliament and in legislature, who are working externally with the leaders in Cosatu, CEC, ANC, SACP to liquidate Numsa. They are now going to get into our workplace. They will try to get into our workplaces using the union they set up called MEUSA, who are prepared to fight back. Cosatu's decision to expel Numsa must be understood for what it is: a well-coordinated reactionary attack on the organization of workers, an attack on Cosatu, an attack on the poor, and an attack on workers. These reactionary forces that have been plotting within the alliance to destroy the unity of Cosatu are doing this for their own selfish material interests. This Cosatu boardroom struggle is not about workers' interests. What we must give them credit for, though, is that they managed to achieve what apartheid regime failed to do, which was to destroy a federation that has been both a shield and a spear in the hands of workers in the consciousness and the consciousness of the nation. We call on all workers to stand together, to remain united, fighting till the bitter end. All workers must join Metalworkers in dislodging boardroom wedge drivers who can expel and dismiss workers because they demand democratic worker control of unions. These boardroom wedge drivers have long forgotten that the task of the union is to serve the interests of workers, champion shop floor struggle, link shop floor struggle with community struggle, pursue a revolutionary agenda through campaigns that must be taken forward as resolved in the Cosatu 11 Congress. Numsa leadership across the length and breadth of this country will be convening open shop steward council meetings and open general meetings. This meeting will be open to all Cosatu members so that they can understand why they also should be fighting our illegal suspension. We will, in addition, be explaining our special National Congress resolution to all workers in this meeting and explain the underlying political struggle in the Federation. Numsa leadership call on all our structures to identify service delivery to our members in line with our service charter adopted at our special National Congress. We must forge ahead with our recruitment target of 400,000 by 2016. We make a clarion call to all workers interested in a militant worker control union to join Numsa in their numbers. We call on all workers who remain vigilant we call on all workers to remain vigilant in this testing time. As the wedge drivers move out of Cosatu boardroom and attempt to move into our workplaces, they will be driven out of Numsa workplaces. This we are confident of. There is no turning back on Numsa Special National Resolution, and in line with this resolution, we are going to launch the National United Front in December 2014. We remain committed to exploring an independent working class political organ. Our solidarity is our strength. Our unity is our strength. We do really want to use this opportunity as well to thank the 9 affiliates who stood together with Numsa right through, but also to really thank and applaud many workers across all Cosatu affiliates who stand together with Numsa in messages of support, in solidarity with metal workers who continue to make one call that Numsa must forge ahead in defense of its resolution, in implementing its resolution. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the General Secretary. We shall now take questions, and let's try and make them brief so that we allow as many as possible to throw questions, at least one question, for one question per media house. Can I start here? 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you start?
All right, thank you. Tony from ENCA. It's going to be one question. You're saying that the Numsa leadership is now going to crisscross the length and breadth of this country. I guess to advance the shop floor struggles, as you say, and the community struggles. You want to link these two, shop floor struggles and community struggles. So I ask a simple question then. Is this, one, a move to start a new federation? And two, is it a move to also start that much talked about Workers' Party? Because your statement clearly states so in the end. And have you completely abandoned then the court action that you had said you would take should you be suspended or expelled from Cosatu? And then just lastly then, are you aware...
That's number 3.
Sorry. Are you aware of an SMS that was sent by Zolizima Mababi, the General Secretary of Cosatu, to affiliates sympathetic to your cause, where he suggests that if you are expelled from Cosatu, he is determined or he is willing to resign. And number two, that after being appointed the spokesperson of NEDLAC, spokesperson of Labour within NEDLAC, he then is alleged to have approached the independent federations such as Fedusa and NACTU, where he suggested that a new federation be formed should things come to a head. Thank you.
Please share the SMS with us. True.
From the Daily Maverick. I just want to find out what informed the decision not to pursue court action. That case from Thursday is still open. So what informed the decision not to go back to court, if that is the decision? And these open meetings that will be held around the country, you say they're open to all Cosatu members. Are they also open to members outside Cosatu, so other federations and unions? These discussions, I see that you're having discussions with workers mainly. Are you having discussions with other political organizations, left-leaning political organizations such as the EFF? And these public meetings, will you be inviting people within Cosatu to address them, such as Remzima Vavik, provided he is still in Cosatu?
Thank you. You just like the ETV.
Thank you so much. Just on a point of clarity there, the paragraph that says Numsa's leadership remains resolute that will continue serving in Cosatu structures in different capacities as we challenge the boardroom dismantling of our federation. Can you just elaborate on what that means? Which structures will you continue serving on, and what is challenging the boardroom dismantling?
Okay.
Natasha from the Business Day. 2 questions. You urged Numsa members to attend meetings within Cosatu structures. But does that mean, are you going to carry on paying your affiliation fees in that case? Or are you going to stop paying it? The second question is on Mawusa. I understand that last week Friday they were given a certification or whatever by the Labour Department to start operating in your sector. How are you going to ensure that your members remain within the Numsa fold?
Thank you very much.
You mentioned here that Joe Brock from Reuters. You mentioned here that there will be.
Sorry, your name and where
Joe
you
Brock
from?
with Reuters.
Reuters. Okay.
You mentioned here that there'll be, certain individuals will be trying to get into our workplaces. Does this mean that you think that your expulsion will increase the risk of labour unrest or industrial action?
Lastly.
I'm mostly covered. Just in terms of the affiliation fees, can you tell us how much you pay Cosatu a year or 1 month? You've been to court, you've been to the CEC, you've addressed the media. How are you assessing the mood of workers, getting a mandate from workers when you haven't yet held these regional tours or provincial tours and faced workers? Secondly, Frans Valeni, the General Secretary of NUM, has come out this morning to say the reason NUM pushed for your expulsion is because you showed absolutely no remorse and were arrogant in making your presentation to Cosatu. But having assessed the mood himself from workers in the Eastern Cape this weekend, he believes Cosatu CEC can and should consider revoking your expulsion if you apologize and stop recruiting across all sectors, or I don't know, throughout the people you have recruited. Is that spin, or do you think that's genuine? Is it a possibility?
Thank you very much. We have quite a lot of questions. I asked for one, but I can see it's difficult. But anyway, it's history in the making, so we do understand that. Yes, was that?
Well, I think 2 things must be said which are reflecting in the statement. The first one, we have consistently raised the fact that within the alliance, in the ANC, SACP, serious leaders actually, Mandashe, Blade Nzimande, Stumo of Cosatu. Remember, Stumo sits in the ANC, NEC, he sits in the SACP. He's a kingpin of a plot to basically liquidate Numsa in the Federation. And we're saying so because we have over time watched his leadership style is divisive, is promoting division and disunity within the Federation. And we're convinced that he's not alone. He basically got blessings of the SACP. What has been, the trigger that has been pulled on behalf of Gwede Mandash, has been pulled on behalf, remember Franz Baleni you talking about, he's a successor. He took over to Gwede. So this is a well-coordinated and orchestrated program. They have made their own calculations. And one issue we know that they have done, there is a special project that has been pulled together to focus on the Federation. It is led by some ex-Numsa leaders. There are funny ex-Numsa leaders who some came here to take a document towards the Special Congress. That was the last time we saw them. They literally ran into the bush. But they are not sleeping in the bush. They are meeting in the airport and they are being seen with some from number of affiliates who are the leading detachment of making sure that Numsa has been expelled. They are handing some staff members they can find in Numsa to please give them information. So there is a project that has been underway to basically create confusion, and we said so, that the strategy is basically to expel Numsa. That is why some people in reacting, like the ANC in reacting to the expulsion of Numsa, it's almost like people who are crying in a wrong funeral. Suddenly, the issue of dismissal of Numsa is a tragedy. Workers are at a loss. They will be vulnerable now that they are outside the Federation. Gwede Mantashe, suddenly, he liked metal workers, but he's got a project to dismiss them. But publicly, we like metal workers. They are the motive force of the revolution. Ivan Jim hates the ANC. We love metal workers. It's only a moron who can see through that the strategy that is being executed is basically to drive a wedge between Numsa leadership and its members. The real call that is being made is that you must come back. It's not a coincidence, Natasha, that Mausa suddenly has been given papers. You can operate in the Numsa scope. The Department of Labor is very quick this time to give a license to that particular union. That's what they will be doing. You're going to hear more, even nice voices like Blade. Metal workers, you're not alone. So we understand the project. So Franz Baloni is a hypocrite, to say the least. He has been one person who has been a ringleader of this project in the Federation. You would remember that the problems, for instance, that we have are as a result of NUM that has become a bureaucratic trade union in the history of mine workers in this country. I'm not sure whether he has ever gone to any mine just to visit a mine where workers are. But we know what happened. NUM have lost workers massively. Our fight with them was about that at some point. When AMCU launched workers all over the branches all over the country, we said why we should not open our own scope. Because AMCU had a right to recruit now that they have a muscle, having lost NUM members. Now NUM has lost members. Do they care about the fact that they lost members? We don't think so. If they were caring, would they be so divisive as they have been so divisive in the Federation to champion a division to liquidate Numsa outside the federation. That's what Baleni have done. Now, it's a bit strange. There are not so many hours from early hours of Saturday, of the 8th, to the morning of today, or where Baleni suddenly, who was basically, he led the charge for the expulsion of Numsa. Today, what is he saying? A mere apology would have defended Numsa. Look, we reject his fooling of the public with contempt it deserves. We're simply saying one thing, that this federation doesn't belong to those individuals in the boardroom. This federation belongs to workers. We're simply saying we will be going all out, and we're calling on our members to continue to be with other workers, because if they were to be alone, the enemy forces will win. We're saying workers of Cosatu, together with Numsa members, at a local level, at a provincial level, they must continue to attend all lower structures. The people who are dismissed in a boardroom, who are not worried about this dismissal, who will challenge this dismissal, is us, leadership. We are dismissed as leadership, but we are not dismissed by workers. We are dismissed by people who sat in a room to plot and then decided to execute the agenda. They ran to Pactonian to have a nice party after dismissing us at 1 o'clock. We know that. And the question is, why should we succumb to people who still broad daylight organization of the workers? And we're saying, first, these people have done everything illegally. I mean, there are unions there like SEPAL, who's the General Secretary behaved like a CEO of a company. He absolutely does not convene for 3 years constitutional meetings. Regional structures of SEPAL have completely been raising one issue, that, listen, we had no mandate that we have ever given to that leadership. Statements have been public. Those people are the people who sit and decide on the fate of the federation by splitting and by dividing the federation. Zingi Swallows, what does he want in the federation? What is she doing in the CC? What qualifies her to participate in the debate? She was wearing a red dress, a very dangerous red dress this past week. So excited, reading for us the constitution of the federation wrongly. And we're not surprised. I mean, she does not account to any structure. She's basically a rendered individual. She's a rendered individual who walks around union willy-nilly. She's allowed to basically be part of the forces who must destroy the federation of Cosatu. Have we dropped the court case? No. Remember, Numsa structures gave us a mandate. And that mandate was very simple. We must do everything else to reclaim the federation to its rightful owners, the workers. We will do so. Because you would remember we had to go to court, and the court restricted them to 5 areas of violation. Which do more panicking, but finally the court pushed him to those 5 areas. And I can share with you that we were not dismissed for those 5 areas. People told us things there that are on record why we must be dismissed. For instance, we are dismissed for having promised that we will march to Cosatu and we didn't march. That's a dismissal offense. We are dismissed for having promised that we will not pay dues to the federation. We have paid dues to the federation. We are an affiliate in good standing. At the time when the issue of a levy was being raised, Numsa was a union in good standing. Those who are busy dismissing us, they were not in good standing. There's no issue. There's no suspension. There's no threat of expulsion to them. It's Numsa that basically is a problem that has to be dismissed. On the issue about the scope, we gave them a detailed information of how they are poaching, of how they are overlapping, about how they have changed their scope and re-registered their scope. NUM is in metal industries with a scope that was changed by Mantashe, and we gave them their constitution, black and white. It is in areas where Numsa is supposed to be recruiting, and we have never cried foul about that. But you know what? Other Cosatu affiliates were objective. They were asking a question. We can see you are in a rally to dismiss Numsa. Have you read this document? Can you please afford us an opportunity to read the document before we can decide about the future of the meeting? And I think there's one union we seriously irritated in our submission called Nehau. Because we didn't accuse Nehau of opening the scope. We simply said, Nehau has been organizing a long value chain right from the beginning. They didn't change the constitution. But when Numsa want to do that as a result of changes in capital, it is Nehau that announced that they will do what they have done. They will surgically remove Numsa. And I think we made them very angry because we just asked the question. It would be nice to check where does the president of Nehau comes from, in which workplace. Because when we ask that question, somebody says, no, she's a cleaner from one of the hospitals in the Western Cape. The question is, how did it happen that she must be the leader of Nehau? Comrade Stumo himself. Where is he coming from? Is she not in a... Is she not a nurse? He's not from a hospital?
He's a nurse.
He's a nurse. Which union that caters for nurses? It's not Dinosa. Huh? No, I'm just saying. We're handing these things that justifies why Numsa should be expelled. When, in fact, if there is a problem around these issues, Cosatu resolution have guided everybody that a democratic debate must be started where unions must merge, they must come together, super unions must be formed, and so forth. No. Numsa has finished. It has spoken a lot of truth, and it is not remorseful the way it says the truth. We're dismissing you, Numsa. We're dismissing you, Numsa, because we think you are a problem. We don't like you, Numsa. And that there is a long issues that were listed that have got nothing to do with the 5 charges, which we will not state here, because we might end up in court very soon in relation to the record of that particular meeting and the fact that there's absolutely no basis for Numsa dismissal. But as you know, Stuma was in the police union as they were mobilizing for the expulsion of Numsa. I've never seen people in leadership of Cosatu basically campaigning all out for a dismissal of a union, people who are supposed to be promoters and champions of unity for workers. We didn't say that. In fact, Stumo, he announced in that meeting that Numsa is found guilty. All what they must come and do is to tell us why we must not suspend or dismiss them. In the meantime, there was not a single meeting that found us guilty. That is why that judge, we tried to say, you should stop these people. But you know, the judge said, yeah, but go and listen to them first. Indeed, we gave them a chance. At 1 o'clock, they would not stop at anything. They had to expel Numsa, and that's where we are. Yes, Numsa leadership will crisscross the country. We are not a manga union. We are accountable to our members. We are very clear that we will be calling provincial shop steward councils. We will mobilize for those shop steward councils. Cosatu has been everything to workers in this country in the shop floor, to communities, to the unemployed. The challenge we will have in those meetings, who will be feeding people lunch. But they are going to be open to everybody who has ever benefited to the federation. And we will be addressing workers to explain why we think it is up to the working class to defend their own federation. We will go to court. We will do everything else. The issue that is being abused and lied about of Numsa forming an alternative federation, our union was very clear on its resolution. It said we will do everything else to unite workers under the banner of Cosatu. It's only if all fails I mean, if all fails, we go to court. Court says, Hamba Numsa in Cosatu. Aye. At some point, we can't be running around permanently as if we can't have capacity to form a new federation. We can do that. We can form a new federation, and that option remains an open option. And we can't operate like people without plan. We won't start to talk to people even as we can see that, in fact, that's what is, the federation is being destroyed. We are not needed in the federation, purely because we must accept that the ANC, we must lie and say the ANC is implementing revolutionary plans and revolutionary programs. Today, about 26 million people are in poverty. They don't have a plate of food because of neoliberal policies, and the NDP is accelerating destruction of manufacturing and industrialization in this country. Serious levels are worsening. And as a union, we are the direct victims. We've lost jobs. We've lost 7 foundries. And Mandasha, instead of facing that, he tried to manipulate this particular process by suggesting that no, Numsa hates the ANC. Not Numsa, Ivan Jim hates the ANC. What can be the basis of hating the ANC? The ANC is made up of workers. It is the workers who voted the ANC into power. It is the working class and the poor who vote for the ANC. So the insinuation when somebody says Ivan Jim hates the ANC, he suggests that we hate the working class. We reject that with contempt. We hate neoliberal policies that the ANC have championed in this 20 years of democracy. The victims of those neoliberal policies is workers, is working class, and the poor. For that, we remain completely defiant, completely unapologetic. Mandasha can look for the nearest cliff and jump. So, Maverick, you're posing serious question that those meetings, would they be open? I think I've answered that. EFF, well, I'm not sure. The issue of EFF keep coming. One of the things that we'll do next year in line with our resolution would be to convene a conference on socialism. EFF will be invited in that conference, like all left forces, and people who aspire to pursue socialism and to pursue a particular direction in building socialism in South Africa. I think I've answered that we'll continue to participate in Cosatu structures. So if Stumo want to go to all Cosatu shop stewards and kick out Numsa, they can do that. So we're challenging them. They must go there and kick out Numsa in those shop stewards. We're saying to our members, attend those meetings, because in those meetings, there's no boardroom and hatred. Workers are meeting there together as workers in those shop steward councils and locals of Cosatu to discuss problems of workers. Suddenly, we must say our workers must stay away from local shop steward council because suddenly Stumo hate metal workers. He doesn't want them. No, we reject that. We're saying it will be Cosatu work members, because we're clear that these people have no mandate from members. It will be Cosatu affiliate members who will say, we're not going to sit in this meeting as long as Numsa is here. That's the position we're taking. Because we firmly believe in all Cosatu Shop Steward Council, workers are fully behind Numsa remaining within the federation. And we can't give it to some individuals who find comfortable, who are so comfortable in boardrooms somewhere in a Cosatu street in Johannesburg. Raters, we were simply saying, there is a project led by individuals who meet at night like thieves planning to do housebreaking. And what they are plotting at night is to liquidate Numsa. That's what they are doing. And that plan is linked to some ex-president of Numsa who used to be here, a coward who could not take a debate in the organization. You know, this is our president. He's got power. We are here. Even if we want to start a meeting, we can't. We wait. Just like we delayed you here. And the president, I saw, he wanted to say, no, we're printing. No, president, we're waiting for you. because in the union, the worker control is serious. Now here was Cedric Gina, had an opportunity to open the conference. His problem was to read. He saw submissions coming from provinces that workers are saying the ANC has failed us and we are for a launching of a united front. We need to take up struggles in the interest of workers and the poor. Immediately saw those resolutions. He had stomach back. And he didn't debate with us. He didn't raise an issue. He ran away. Now such a coward is going around to claim that he's going to form this powerful union and so forth because he's got the backing of a particular clique within the alliance. He must stop announcing. He must do it. Servicing workers is not like sitting somewhere drinking wine, whiskey. No, it is hard job to build shop stewards who must have capacity to service workers and so forth. All what they must do, they must compete. We are going to challenge them, and Numsa members are not for sale. No. In KZN, they try to intimidate us there. 3 of our shop stewards were killed because they remain very resolute behind Numsa resolutions. So I'm just saying, we're saying to workers, be aware they are coming. They will be now, the SACP will be launching a campaign. How the campaign that they will be working on between now and 2015 towards 2016 is how do we win over those Numsa members back to Cosatu. They want them in Cosatu. What they don't want is this leadership of Numsa. Mausa is their plan. They are going to convince workers to go there. Our members, we know, are very vigilant, are very conscious. We don't have workers who are just led. We act on their own interest. This resolution we're championing resolutely. We are not looking around. We're implementing Numsa resolution, as I said. Come December, we're launching a united front. We will have a nice Christmas in the country with a united front that will be struggling across the length and breadth of the country, giving power to the workers and communities in general. Now, the atmosphere is that there's local government election coming. Now, they say, Numsa is dangerous. What is it? We are just launching the United Front. It will be the United Front that will decide whether it wants to contest elections and so forth. And if it is the working class and communities that will benefit out of campaigns that United Front will take, what's wrong with that? So I'm just saying we remain very resolute. And by the way, the resolutions we're implementing, that's why we had to run a bit of a workshop in that Cosatu CC. Yeah, no, because people don't read. All Numsa resolutions we're implementing, they are Cosatu resolutions. We have implemented, for instance, a resolution of campaigning against electricity tariff. We were never suspended. That was one campaign of Cosatu that we took. We are on e-tolls. We are implementing a Cosatu resolution. But a police union can take a decision to say this e-tolls campaign is not accepted, it's bad, it's threatening the state. We don't expect anything from the police. We expect police to continue to support the state. Our very same consciousness started by fighting the police. We know that. But I mean, they're an affiliate of Cosatu. They were supposed to be reprimanded for doing that. No, it's only Numsa that is being attacked. So I think basically, President, those are the questions. Is there anybody who would think that I didn't answer the question? ZV? No, I'll turn to Kuguman. I think Uvavi must speak for himself. Okay? Oh, okay. One of the things we have reflected on is that we're going to our own central committee that will be convened to basically reflect in detail. What we're doing in this press conference is to take forward the mandate that we have been given in case we are expelled. Comrade said, this is the line that we should take, and that's the line. And we will convene a constitutional structure that will debate our expulsion. What should we be doing? Yes, we're paying closer to $1 million to Cosatu a month. Indeed, now that we're expelled, depending how our structures decide, we can employ many organizers. We're very, it's one of those things, we're looking at it with smile, but it's painful. because it means that we can employ more organizers in those areas where the special central committee, the special Congress said we must recruit. It means we must intensify recruitment. Remember, we also saying we're making a clarion call now to our members, to workers across the length and breadth of the country, to join Numsa in numbers. In fact, it must be a fashion, it must be a way, it must be an attitude of mind, it must be a way of life that workers must belong to Numsa, which is the worker control. If you are not in Numsa, you are not organized. So we will really be driving mobilization and recruitment. Because we're a militant union, we don't do that for an individual, we do it for workers. We've adopted a service charter. We will step up quality service to members. We don't understand this device of dismissing Numsa for recruiting workers. How does it help those who have been in pains? In fact, you must ask them. They have achieved now what they want, to dismiss Numsa. What's the benefit? I think it will be interesting to get an answer to that. Koli, I was saying, I think it would be good that we don't speak for Vavi. I think Vavi, is the next in the list. I did hear now, I read this morning, that the architect and the plotter of this project, Balin, he says, no, we will take him to a disciplinary action. We will not really push for his expulsion. But as long as he behaves. So Zwelinze Mavavi, in a democratic country, is banned. I'm just saying that's what he will be. Numsa is not there. They will completely ban Zwelinze Mavavi because this whole thing is basically to ban the Federation of Workers. Why? Because there's NDP, which cannot be implemented with when you have in the country a militant independent federation that will champion this right-wing program that they are implementing. They want to implement e-tolls. They don't want to ban labor brokers. They have introduced a youth wage subsidy. I mean, basically they want to reverse all the gains. They want to introduce a limitation on the right to strike. They want us to ballot before we strike now. They want to introduce a compulsory arbitration. So that's why we're saying this is not just an attack. This is an attack on hard-won gains of workers. And for that right-wing program to succeed of the ANC today, you don't need an independent federation that is militant with workers who are ready to fight. I mean, as we speak, they are busy taking over pensions of workers through preservation. We fought to shift workers from pension fund to provident funds. Today, unilaterally, they have said now, no, we will postpone it to 2017. Who gave them the mandate in the very first place? So, I'm saying, I don't think that they will spare Zwelinze Mavavi. And from where we stand, we think that you better speak to him rather than to try and be his representative. But we're clear that he's next in the list. From where we stand, if they don't dismiss him, it's because they will not want to prove Numsa right. That's the only condition. We're convinced that they will dismiss him. Just like they've taken a decision, they don't want that man in the federation. So we're convinced that they will. If they don't, they will just give him a sanction to keep him quiet in the federation, not to champion, because in the very first place, they will refuse any campaign, any program to implement the 11 Congress revolutionary programs and resolutions that the federation has taken. Yeah, I think basically that's it around Zwelinze Mavavi.
Just one or two additions. But on affiliation fees, obviously you must ask yourself as well as to where are we going to pay that affiliation fee when we are dismissed with our affiliation, of course, which is dismissed too. But also to say this special CC on the 7th has actually confirmed our session as Numsa that this is not going to be a fair process. There's a decision that has been taken. The GS presented for almost 3 hours in that meeting. Over 100 page. In few minutes time, in fact, in the first 10 minutes, already there was a move to dismiss Numsa from Cosatu. Clearly, there was no consideration of Numsa's submission, as we have already said, even before that sitting, or before that kangaroo court, that there's a decision, we're going to be dismissed. In no time, indeed, there was a move, and which was led by NUM, and Franz Balen, who's speaking today, quoting the Bible as if there was remorse, there was going to be mercy and everything else. We think he's a liar, because he was the first person in that meeting to say that we have reached the end of the road. Numsa must be dismissed from the Federation. And when you look at the charges, we don't know which charge really are we found guilty for contravening. It has not been clarified now. And our conviction, based on our submission, is that we have responded adequately to all the so-called allegations that were presented to us in that meeting. And it was clarified to us during the meeting that in fact our sin as Numsa was, amongst other things, was to refuse to campaign for the African National Congress election in May 2014. And this has came out very clear in that meeting, that this is one of our sins, which is nowhere in the charges that have been forwarded to us. We have said and we maintain, some of you did not believe us when we said that Cosatu has been hijacked by a gang which is now responsible for an organization which is supposed to belong to workers. One of the reasons why we go in to explain, and we think workers must know, that their own federation has been taken over by this gang that has no regard for Cosatu constitution at all. When you use Cosatu constitution to demand a special Congress, what do you get? You get booted out. This call we have made last year, all of a sudden there's a new development and plans that Numsa must be dealt with in 2014, and that has happened. But the call for a special Congress has not happened. And we think workers must know, and workers must decide that whether we should be sitting in Cosatu, fighting, of course, for logos and for colors, or whether we think that it's time that workers must reflect very hard so that perhaps the time for a new path has arrived. And these are options that workers must begin to discuss. But in the first place, they must know that their own federation of Baha'i has been hijacked by this gang today. We have not been dismissed by Cosatu, as we know it. We are dismissed by 33 gang members who claim to be workers' leaders in that federation. 350,000 workers or metal workers are dismissed by 33 so-called leaders of unions in Cosatu. And we think that workers must know, so that workers must make their own determination whether this Cosatu, is it still relevant as it was when it was formed in 1985. And we think all those issues must be put on the table. Because we might be fighting for an empty shell here, when in fact Cosatu has died long time ago with Baha'i. Let's take the second.
There was one question I didn't answer about the mood